Hello, so welcome. Today we have an exciting time of what we're going to look at for the week. It's going to be basically what's going on with the SPY, what's going on with the general market, and what we should expect. And we do have it again, a very busy earnings week. So we're going to go over some of the bigger names that I'm following that I like. And we had a request on Boeing and kind of keep updating on that. So what I'm going to do is keep following Boeing. It's one of the companies that I like to trade just because I've held it for so long and I know it pretty well. So I'm going to go over that. But overall, we're going to do our regular weekly analytics as to what favorite industries we can look at for longer term trades. But at the same time, we like the day trading. So we look at possible winnings as far as like trades that we'll do during the day. And so some of those will be based on what earnings releases are going to happen those days. And so hopefully this will give you a guide as to what you can trade, what you can look at interesting names, and maybe show you a little bit of our process. So again, we are options trading pilot, and I'm the chief trading pilot. So the only thing that I'm always emphasizing is that be careful in trading. Trade small, trade often. So it's one of those things that you got to manage your risk and manage your cash balance, obviously. So protection of capital is the most important thing that you can do when we trade. And so if you're in a trade and you're only hoping, then guess what? You should probably get out of that trade. So let's get started here real quick. And I'm going to start sharing my screen here. If I can find it real quickly, here we go. Share this screen and let's go start at the beginning. All right, again, come find us at optionstradingpilot.com, and we have a Discord and you can join us there. But this is our weekly review and kind of like what we're looking for the next few days. And so here we go. Let's switch to the other screen. That would be a little bit bigger for you so you can see. So you can see this is the stock charts RRG, and this is the daily. I went through the year. So as you can see, there's two or three favorable areas that we like. Is natural gas, this is a bank, and then this is the semiconductor. We've talked about semiconductor the last couple of days. I think that'll continue to hold for a while. You can see the zig, it was coming out of favor and it came back in. But this is one of those that you should probably keep your eye on it because there is a big shortage. There is a big demand. More people are mining the cryptocurrency. So semiconductors and anything that has to do with that is going to remain trending up, I think, overall. And it's just looking for trades that you can maximize and optimize your returns. So you can see this is a list. It's like the bank index is up. Natural gas, obviously, that's going, but we're going to take a little closer look on natural gas. You can see here that there's this formation that's looking like it's weakening. So it's interesting that we've had a nice run up here. But when you look at over the last year, it has done 88.75% return versus the general market, which is 42.87 return, which is kind of astounding, right? That it's grown that much and it's doing that well. But always just notice that there's a lot of volatility, and if you're a long-term investor, then you can trade it and go there. So there's this lull here from basically, I want to say July, just a little bit past the beginning of July, all the way until we came up in mid-September that we hit our stride once again. We might see that happening here coming soon. You can see the PPO is trending down, and this is a strong move down at this point, but keep your eyes open. Again, this is one of my easier charts to look at. It's pretty obvious, right? We're breaking down. It's coming down. This candle is pretty significant. The previous candle was indecisive, and the one was a significant candle. So even though it's favored in this industry, we may be seeing a move down here. So one of the things to really keep perspective is that when you trade, is that you got to know what trade you're doing. You're doing a day trade, you're doing a longer trade, is it a swing trade? So always have your reasons to get out of these trades. So for example, if we're doing a longer trade, you got to have the hypotheses written down as to why you enter the trade. And it could be as simple as, hey, the moving average crossover is still up, so I'm going to stay in this trade, and when it moves down, I get out. It could be as simple as that, or as complicated as, this is an inflation hedge. This is the monetary policy. I'm noticing that the ECB has decided to, enter the fray of like funding and keep funding the markets. Even though Powell said that there'll be tapering, that perhaps maybe the Biden tax hikes are not going to happen. They're not in the proposal. So all those things lend themselves to you making decision to commodity areas, and commodities obviously are some of the best hedges when we get inflation. So jumping into the SPY, I'll take a little time here because this is an interesting chart, right? Because we had a September to October 11th. There's a lot of losses. There's a lot of unpredictability. There's gap downs and gap ups that occurred. And so how do you deal with that, right? Because it's, as a trader, investor, if you're not day trading, then you're exposed to overnight changes. And so that's one of the great things when you day trade, is that you close most of your positions during the day. So you're not exposed to what happens at night, but you're not exposed to the upside of what happens at night. So for example, here, this is October, I forget the day, but October 8th or so. As you can see, we're down here. It's like October 8th. There's this nice gap up. And so if you're monitoring the futures market, you could probably get in somewhere around here and then experience that gap. But if you really entered like late, then you wouldn't have seen too much happen during the day. And the next day you lost, and then you lost 3 days in a row, and you're like, man, I shouldn't have gone in. So it's one of those things that as traders, we have to be aware that what kind of trade we're making. So really, really interesting. At Options Trading Pilot, one of the things that we focus on is that risk management, cash management. And I think like all good traders, in order to build consistency, you have to really commit to the plan that you're working with. So one of the mistakes that I see, and I coach a lot of individuals that are just entering options trading, that are just entering trading, or they've been doing it for a while, but they want to refine their process. And one of the key things that we talk about is planning, and really setting up stop losses, knowing when to take money off the table. So whenever we see a certain crossover come down, then you should just be more cautious. Maybe don't hold overnight. Maybe it's okay to miss these gap ups and these gap downs. And so being flexible in your trading style and being aware of where we are as far as seasonality. This is the fourth quarter, and we know that October tends to be very volatile. So play a little lighter. Don't hold as much overnight, especially when you have the crossovers being down. So these are all cues to tell you what kind of trades you should be looking for, if you should hold overnight or not. If we take a look at this volume, this was interesting to me because I did expect, there's heavy selling here. I mean, look at this candle right here. This is September 20th. This is a scary day, right? We almost broke down and broke through, and so that did end up happening. But as you can see, we picked up nicely for a couple days. Even here, that was generally kind of like a day that you might expect the next day to come up. So then when we look at it, we have 1, 2, 3 straight days and then an indecisive day, but we never got this crossover up here. And so we got this big gap down. And if you're riding this wave of trying to get this, but here, then you were seriously disappointed. And if you sold out here, then good for you, because you didn't see this, but you probably didn't enter to over here. So these trades are difficult, but again, you have to have a different perspective as to what you're expecting when you're trading. So if you went in below the crossover, in specifics, this crossover that I have it's more sensitive. So typically when you're an investor, you don't use sensitive crossovers such as this one. This is more of a trader's crossover. So basically, that's what we specialize in. I really like to zoom out. And so when you look at this zoom out, we're seeing here that this is the weekly S&P 500. And notice like the stark difference. Oh, this is a lot of transitions, a lot of things, but as a longer investor, you're fine. Like, so yeah, you're going to see these things, but overall, you're not seeing these wild moves like we saw here, right? Look at this. This is the Corona time, which is this was very hurtful. And in fact, just a brief history in time there, I don't remember it in all the data. I ran all the numbers previously a long time ago, but basically, if I remember off the top of my head, there's never been a decline this fast that has gone up this fast. It usually lasts months before we start seeing an uprise, like a rising. So it's really interesting as to the currents. And this probably has to do with more reactive markets, more like quicker decisions by the Federal Reserve, which, by the way, I don't really agree with as far as like, hey, should we be funding this? But it's not like I'm going to ignore the markets just because the powers that be decided to fund it. You know, one of the stories that I like to use is that there's been various attempts by different areas to control things, right? And so what happens when you end up trying to control things are difficult. And Nassim Taleb, which is one of the guys that I really enjoy reading, he wrote this book called Anti-Fragility, which is an interesting term, right? Because it's like when you protect too much, then what ends up happening, the thing you're protecting becomes weak. And so when the calamity does occur, it happens worse than it would have. So as an example, let's say, I think California was trying to avoid burning forests. And I read this a while ago, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's in the book, in Taleb's book. But basically, he talks about how there was this idea of like not burning anything of the forest. So what happened? Well, the underbrush never got cleared. And so, yeah, there was a while where there was no burning nor anything, but then finally the inevitable happened, right? Which is like a huge storm, and the fires were so incredible that they could not be controlled whatsoever. And it burned more than it would have had you just let these small fires happen. You know, it's kind of the same thing as if you lived in a bubble and you never got sick, and then you go out and you get one small cold and you're an adult, that may do you in. I mean, it's one of those things. And so now, you know, you just have to be strong, right? So the markets, in order for them to be strong, we have to let them readjust. We have to let price reallocate. And so our best indicator that we can ever find as far as like our ability to make decisions is price. And so I focus a lot on price. I like volume as well because the volume confirms. So it's that volume price action. But if you had to pick one thing, it's like if you study price, then you will be able to make better decisions. I'm not saying they're the best decisions, but I'm saying that's, as human beings, that's probably the best thing we can do to make decisions. So sorry, we got into a diatribe there, but I really like to focus on what the price action is doing, and you can see this is strong. And so we should see. I'm figuring that at the end of the week, we'll see higher highs. It's going to be really, might be a fun week trading. So be active, manage your trades, right? But we should see an up week for the week is what I'm seeing. All right. So one of the things to always pair up your views of things, that I haven't talked about this in the past, but I figured that maybe it's something that let's start bringing in a little bit more, which is this VIX idea, right? So what's the VIX doing relative to what the market is doing? Sometimes there's a divergence, so you may anticipate things coming, and that's one of the things that I look at. And you can see, I mean, there's a drive down overall in the VIX, which means volatility is down, which tends to, you know, obviously it works opposite in what the market is doing. The market is going up, volatility goes down, and if the market is going down, volatility goes up. So you can see the brief spikes, but then the drive down, and look at it just angled down, you know. So overall, we should continue to see, if we see this leveling up and starting to come up, obviously these things happen quickly when the price moves and the VIX moves real quickly, but it's one of those things to use as a guide for yourself to take a look at. So now somebody asked me about Boeing. I trade Boeing a lot. You can see why, right? It's like, even though the candles are wide, they do give you an opportunity to enter during the day if you want to do day trades. the overall stock has been pretty decisive as to it moves. Once it starts moving down, it does, right? And once it moves up, it didn't happen here, but it does decide to move up. It just really goes after it. So we've been seeing this drive down. I mean, this is obnoxious, right? Like, what a drive down this is. This is fantastic. And of course, earnings were last week, and like I touched upon last week, that we thought that Boeing might struggle. You seen that Southwest Airlines and all the other airlines didn't do as well. So just using as correlation analysis to look at what may happen. But look, was that July 19th? Yeah, July 19th, we hit that 204.80 and we had this nice bump up. We had a really big convictive candle with this indicator right here rejecting the low. It looks like we might have a rejection. It wasn't the wick that we wanted here, like we got over here. So we may be hitting this floor. So if you were somebody that was going to trade this, I think the upside has a better opportunity than the downside. And why is that? Well, the market's going up, right? We're in the fourth quarter. We're in the home stretch, which generally tends to be an up period. We have commodities rising. We have a lot of things rising. So the only thing that can stop this, obviously, is like, we're having struggles with canceled flights and this and that. And so there's a slight correlation to what Boeing does. And when I say slight, it's actually like a high correlation. So if the airlines don't technically do well, then Boeing won't do as well. But I think we're seeing the end of that. At least I'm thinking that's the case. And the price action is showing that to me. We haven't been this low in a long time. But if you look at recently, we have had lower lows. You can drive this line, but we may have hit the bottom. So again, be cautious when you trade this. I would probably favor selling puts here, just because I don't want to be as committed as getting into calls at this point. And the main reason is because it could drive down. So let's get a little buffer by selling those bull puts. So yeah, I really hope that helps. So now I want to change a little bit to showing some of the bigger names and the things that I'll be following this week to trade. Some of the trades I already have in, so hopefully did I just change that properly? Here we go. So I'm just gonna go pick one per day that I'm just gonna look at. And I'll do this live. Actually, I haven't done my homework, which I have to do after I shoot this. But this is Chegg. Chegg I've traded. They've made me pretty good money. I think it's a logistics company, and obviously supply chains has been an issue. And of course, we look at every single time period, right? So the weekly, very weak. We're sitting right at the Fibonacci line. We're looking at, if we're getting on the roller coaster up to the volume profile, our uptrend isn't like huge, but in the whole side, we're looking at the week 64, we're at 59, that's about what, 9% increase. So if this holds, right? If this holds, and this will get earnings tomorrow afternoon. So maybe everything's been priced in. So the weekly doesn't look very favorable to saying that. Let's look at the daily. Okay, the daily may have justified that we did find the low, and we see this first candle right here, right? Candle is above. Yeah, this is a bullish candle that we're looking at. So maybe we are confirming here, right? What we're saying is that maybe we get this ride up to this volume profile peak. It's a thin peak, but it might take multiple days to get there. But as far as earnings, looking at where you would lean if you decide to do an earnings trade on this, then I'd be interested to see. Last time that it was at this Fibonacci line was around 70, was way back in June. So it got driven down pretty hard here. So I would probably anticipate maybe seeing at least a couple days increase. I'd be interested to do that trade. So let's move on to the 4 hour. 4 hour, of course, general interest. You can see the closing is at noon. Yeah, so maybe we're getting interest here. It's 4 hours. There it is. 1 hour, 30 minutes. Leveled off a little bit there. 15 minutes. Yeah, you go after hours and went a little bit into it. Yeah. So you can see there's this driving force, this impulse of going up, and these numbers were rejected down here. So again, a bullish trade is what I would expect there. Next one, Generac. Why Generac? Because I own a home, and I'd be interested to see what's going on here. I actually don't trade Generac often. I know I held a few shares way back when. So and it did really well for us. You can see GRC. Let's go back to the weekly. I mean, strong uptrend. Look at this. This is amazing. You know, you get the MACD double back midway. You should expect continued. This is a double back. It hit a 510 high. We're getting this earnings report is going to be in early Tuesday pre-market. So daily, yeah, still bullish. We're right at Fibonacci. If it passes this, it may be a fun stock to trade. 4 hours. So some slowing down here, but maybe it's just exhaustion of buyers a little bit. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, it's leveling. It wants to come up. Again, we're right at Fibonacci on the 15-minute. So I would expect this to jump up here. Yeah, overall, I'm bullish on Generac. I like that trade. I'll see how I can develop that. And then let's look at Skills. So Skills is one of those that I've enjoyed trading in the past. And it's one of those that really could go meme on us, right? Wall Street bets crazy. So that's why I like trading it. And you can see the 5-minute, it went up, but obviously we always look at the weekly. The weekly is no good, right? But look at this hard bounce. What a bounce. Yeah, that's a nice bounce off of that line. Look at the daily just went positive. We're on our crossover. And you know, use your own crossovers. Obviously, uses like there's crossovers are kind of a guide. Like when you want to verify action, you want to look at the volume price action. You can see we're still holding steady here and no real movement. They're just waiting for earnings. It looks like. I want to see what happens tomorrow. If I see anything favorable, then I'm going to jump on this trade. Any chart, any nice patterns form. I mean, it would be super nice if we see this cut down and then get that handle and then just drive it up. Obviously, this is daily. We don't have enough days for that to form, so that's just wishful thinking. But let's look at the 4 hour. 4 hour positive, looking good. Holding this right at the balance price. We're seeing this balance price generally still up. 15-minute. Yeah, solid closing right there. You see that? And 5-minute. Okay, so we're bullish on that as well. So looks like we're bulls, right? We're bulls here. You know, I have to choose here between Moderna and Uber. Moderna comes out in the morning, so let's just take a look at Moderna. Yeah, weekly is, you know, we've had our ups and downs, but it's generally up. It's starting to drive back up again. That 345 number is hurting way before, you know, much more than that. Hit 497. Would have liked to have seen this drive a little more, but it's really hugging that Fibonacci line. Would anticipate good earnings, right? Because we've been selling vaccines. There's no tomorrow. And potentially we'll see more with these booster shots. So 4 hour. It's stalling right there. And maybe even a neutral trade. Maybe even a neutral trade here. 358, the 1 hour, and then it just kind of, when was this? 8 o'clock. 13 point down, 13 is what, 5% or so down. So interesting there. Holding this price. Let's see. Even in a descending triangle or anything. Yeah. Minutes. Yeah, holding that price. 5 minutes. So I would anticipate too much movement on this. Generally, I'm bullish on Moderna. So longer term trades probably bullish. But in the shorter, if you wanted to take an earnings trade, I'd probably do some kind of iron condor type thing or really wide puts. And I just not expect a lot of premium, but I would just lean a little bit bullish on that. And then Coinbase, of course, we got to look at coin, right? Coin, let's look at the weekly. Obviously, it's a new IPO. We won't have much, but look, very aggressive. And we've seen the cryptos really go up hard. And so, again, there's more easy money in the markets with inflation. So we should see some of that flow into the cryptos, which of course there's more trading. So that means Coinbase should see a lot of those revenues. The only issue that I see is that Coinbase is just difficult to trade because it's generally expensive. So I would like them to seek a different idea, which is like more volume but lower trade prices. I think they would do well. I think it's time for them to transition to that. Maybe they're looking at population contributions. And so what I mean by that is like who's accepting trading these cryptos more. And once we get into those classes that have more money and they accept the cryptos a little bit more, maybe advisors start, with these ETFs coming out, maybe advisors start pushing that and you start educating the public that has more money than the millennials that are really driving these things home, then perhaps we'll see a pivot by coin to lower trade fees. Obviously more volume. There's people that are trading this for them, I'll call them market makers for lack of a better term. Then and we could see this. I mean, yeah, I always like to focus. What does the world look like 5 years from now? Yeah, I think Coinbase went 1,000 at least. So long term, I'm bullish on anything crypto, and unless the world ends, right? Because then when you manipulate currencies, things get difficult. But that's why people are looking at cryptos. But here we go. It's hugging this 4 hour. Generally a bullish trend. The 1 hour. Yeah, it's holding its head. It looks a lot like Moderna, doesn't it? Okay, a little more bullish here, hugging this line, maybe waiting for the earnings report, but that's not till Friday. So we do see a descending triangle there, so you may see that pop up there. Yeah, I'm going to say we're going to lean bullish on this trade. Yeah, lean bullish on that trade too. So Moderna is the only one that wasn't really bullish for me. So anyway, you guys have a great week trading. If you have questions, then obviously subscribe and like us and give us the information on the comments below. If you have questions, obviously we're here to answer them, and come visit our website optionstradingpilot.com. You can join our Discord. We'd love to see you there. Happy trading.
Well, good evening. Welcome to another Options Trading Pilot weekly recap. As we looked last week, we had a lot of earnings, but we're at all-time record highs in the market and volatility is very low. We thought we would have a tough time finding a lot of trades for earnings. And we did. We did not trade very many. The risk reward with the lower IVs were very difficult to trade. On the ones that we did trade, some of those we were safe, but there were some that were really out of the expected move. Going into this week, we still have quite a few earnings, but implied volatility is low. Very interesting. We have a flattening of the yield curve where the 2-year interest rates are going up, but the 10 and 30s are staying the same or maybe even decreasing some. And that's an interesting signal if that continues. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. Bitcoin, I think, is still in play. Commodities in a big way are in play. We're seeing the dollar, the NASDAQ on Friday, last 30 minutes a day, just rocketed higher, and the dollar sold off. That's a good sign. Dollar selling off is very bullish for the market, very bullish for commodities. We might even see a jump in gold this week, and we've positioned ourselves into some long gold, silver, platinum, and some lithium as well. And I think we should see, at least it appears to me, that we could be going in, seeing another leg higher in the NASDAQ this week. But time will tell and see if we can get some good trades on.